Oh, this is the thing.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the FPL Banger Show. Siva here, and it is wildcard time for a lot of us this week. So what I'm going to do in this video is look at whether or not you should wildcard, maybe you want to hold off, and what are the things to consider when activating the chip. Now, the question of whether you should wildcard or not is really team dependent. That's a very easy answer, but basically, if you've got 9 to 10 players ready to play this week, you're happy with the team you have, you want to wait another week, there isn't a massive drawback, and in some senses you actually get an advantage. You get the international break, not so much time to think, because I don't think you learn anything new between now and Gameweek 9, but any injuries that pop up, you can respond to them. You can also have the full suite of players to choose from in Gameweek 9. Right now, a lot of us are picking guys just because they play this week. You've got 3 games that aren't going to go on this week. So United, Liverpool, Chelsea in particular, all of those teams don't play this week. Palace, Brighton and Leeds, the other 3. And so we're restricted. We can't pick from those 6 teams. We have forced to pick from the 14 other teams. And that kind of limits us on a wildcard this week. So if you want to wait another week, perfectly fine. If you're happy with the team, go ahead. Another option is Game Week 13. And the reason for Game Week 13 is because in 12, Arsenal and City blank. So what you could do is use your transfers in Game Week 12, get rid of the Arsenal and City guys, bring them back in on wildcard in Game Week 13, because both Arsenal and City have great runs of fixtures from 13 all the way up to 16. So you'll want them back anyway. So 2 main windows, I think, for wildcard if you're not doing it this week. Now, I see a lot of complaints and a lot of comments I get whenever I post a draft or I see other drafts. Boring, same team, seen it before, template. There is always going to be a template. So you just have to accept it for what it is. Pick your differentials. I would say most wildcard drafts have about 6 to 7 players who are going to be identical in each draft. And you just can't run away from them. Nor should you try to, because they are template for a reason, right? Guys like Haaland are going to be in every draft because they're the best. And I think you pick your differentials. And it's still really early in the season. I think later on in the season, there'll be time to take more and more risks as you get closer and closer to Game Week 38. But for now, I think even if your team looks too safe, it looks too boring, it's probably a really good team. And that's why it looks boring, because you know everybody there is going to return. Alright, so straight into it with keepers. Now, not much discussion to be had here. I've seen some people talk about alternatives to Nick Pope, which is Leno and Guaita, I think are the ones who are most commonly mentioned. Now, if you look at projected points up to Game Week 12, this is from FPL Review, Pope is way out ahead. He is first amongst all keepers. Now, especially with Edison having a blank in Game Week 12, Pope has 19 points, Leno has 17.5, Guaita has 14.1 for predicted points. The issue with Guaita and Leno and why they can't really stand up to Pope is because of the way Newcastle play. So Pope has faced 10 shots on target with an expected save rate of 99%. And what that means basically is that he's facing a lot of easy shots on target. And so he's getting really easy save points. He's also the highest for baseline bonus amongst all Newcastle players. Trippier is second, and we'll come to Trippier later. But that's why in the 2 of the 3 clean sheets that Newcastle have kept, Pope has managed 2 double-digit hauls because he's so high on bonus and he's racking up the save points. The next closest in terms of easy saves, right? These saves with 99% expected rate is Raya at half and 5. So you can instantly see the way Newcastle's set up. It's perfect for Pope. He gets a lot of easy saves, and the fixtures are getting easier, right? The next 3, you've got Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford. You would be surprised if he doesn't keep at least 1, if not maybe even 2 clean sheets in the next 3. He's also top for bonus amongst all goalkeepers with 6. So I can see the temptation to go to Guaita because he's cheaper. You save 0.6 million. Probably going to save more by the time we get to the deadline. But I think, for me, you don't want to be going against a keeper with haul potential. And I look at Nick Pope and I think if he's going to get 10-digit, double-digit returns, 10-pointers, 11-pointers, 12-pointers. That's not something you really want to fight with against. Guaita has not managed a single double-digit haul all season. He's actually only kept one clean sheet so far. And he's not highest for baseline bonus. In Palace, it would be Joachim Andersen, the centre-back, because he makes a lot of the passes. So I just think the way Newcastle are set up, it's perfect for Pope. Everybody's going to have him. And this is the one position where you don't really want to go against the crowd. I think, once again, you have to pick your differentials carefully. And I don't really see a strong argument to not go with Pope. Defenders. Okay, so defenders, a bit more interest here in who you pick. Now, you look at the FDR rating. These are the top 6 teams: City, West Ham, Spurs, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, with the best fixtures over the next 5 games. The FDR rating here is from FPL Fraser, good friend of the pod. Go check him out. And you can see the predicted points there, up to Gameweek 12. Trippier, top of the list. So he is outperforming the likes of Trent and Cancelo while being 2 million cheaper. Once again, one of those no-brainers. Everybody is going to have him. I mean, he's already, I think, more than 30% owned. So no point fighting that. Perisic, 16.6. So he's just slightly behind Trippier for predicted points. Perisic is level with Trent, who is also 16.6. Cancelo, 15.6. Dean, 15.6. James, 15.5. I noted Cancelo being really high because City don't play in Game Week 12, right? Need to update that. Even then, Cancelo is really high. Dean is a pick that I'm seeing in some drafts now. For me, I just don't trust Villa. 4 points from 18 so far, and I think you really need to see more from them in a defensive sense before you can start to trust the defenders. So for me, Dean's kind of a no-go, especially because he's not that cheap. He's 4.5, but you can go down to a Nico Williams, a Patterson from Everton, Emerson from West Ham, who's 4 million. Unless you're planning to start Dean each week, which most people aren't, then I would just avoid. James at 15.5. Reece James, for me, still really important. We don't know how exactly Chelsea are going to set up. Now, you'd have seen the Champions League game. He played right wing back, which is good. As usual, in the last 10 minutes, he was moved to right centre back. They took off Azpilicueta and brought on Hakim Ziyech. So that is slightly concerning because I don't see Azpilicueta starting each week. You would hope Fofana comes in, but Fofana was benched against Salzburg and didn't play at all. Didn't come on. So maybe Potter maybe he wants a sort of a wing-back kind of player in that right centre-back role, like an Azpilicueta or a James. It's important to remember that Joel Veltman plays that role for Brighton, and he's got crossing capability, the kind of guy who can work on a wing. Fofana may not have that, so something to monitor, but I think the fixtures for Chelsea are good enough. They limited Salzburg to really low XG. Salzburg only had 4 shots in the entire game. So you expect Potter to get the defense sorted out. I think one defender from Chelsea is fine given their fixtures. You look at that: Palace, Wolves, Villa, Brentford. I don't mind having James this week and keeping him on the bench. That's where I'm leaning. Trippier, I think, as we discussed, no-brainer. Trent, yep, you're missing out. And Liverpool did look much better against Ajax. But Arsenal and City in 10 and 11, I think you can afford to go off and come back. Because he's still the most expensive defender. And you've got guys like Perisic and Cancelo who can do a job. Perisic is controversial. A lot of people don't like the rotation risk. But for me, when you look at the attacking potential, you see this. Expected assists. Now, Perisic doesn't have a lot of goal threat, but that's not really important because his expected assists is outperforming every other defender in the league. Yes, he doesn't always play 90 minutes. In fact, he misses some games. But he's had a long, nice rest of 1 week. And he's going to get international break. Yeah, he'll play for Croatia. But you'd expect him to come back and start the next game, which is the Arsenal game. So he starts whenever it's an important game. Played 90 minutes against Sporting in the Champions League. I think the fact that he started more often than Sessegnon, it's not a week-to-week rotation. He is clearly the first choice. Conte wants Sessegnon to learn from Perisic. He's spoken about that. With this kind of expected assist potential, It's great because he's putting in a lot of crosses. You've got guys like Richarlison and Kane who both can head the ball. He's also on set pieces when Son isn't on the pitch. And for my money, his crossing is significantly better than Son. So I think Perisic, worth the risk. Because he's 5.6 and you can afford that when he's effectively playing left wing for Spurs. Reece James, as you can see, attacking numbers are great. Nico Williams for 4.1. If Forest can start keeping clean sheets, and that's a huge if, but if they can, he's great value because his attacking data is beating Trent at this stage, which is ridiculous, but makes sense because he's former Liverpool, right? And that's why I'm not sold on paying 7.5 million for Trent at this stage, because his attacking data is worse than Nico Williams. It's around where Diogo Dalot is. Better expected assists, but worse expected goals. It's slightly ahead of Trippier, but again, he costs more than all these guys. So I feel you can take a chance. It's a risk because we know how explosive Trent is, but I think you can take that chance, move away for the short term. Cancelo's data is really poor, but it doesn't really matter because he plays for the best defense in the league. They usually are good for a clean sheet, lowest XG conceded, Man City, of any team. And I mean, as you saw against Borussia Dortmund, from out of nothing, Cancelo, this outside foot, ridiculous cross, no right to get it on target, but he does, and Haaland puts it in. So Cancelo easy for me. And you look at guys here like Koufal, I'm not interested. Their attacking data is so poor. Dean isn't that great. You kind of get what you pay for. I'd honestly rather have Nico Williams because I think these are defenses that are both not great, but at least he's got a chance of an attacking return to make up for the bad defending stats. Midfield. Now, midfield, you look again at the FDR chart. So best to medium term fixtures here, right? City, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Newcastle, Leicester, Villa, West Ham. Now, for me, again, you look at the predicted points, Son is ahead. All the models have Son ahead, and I think a lot of the people who follow models are leaning to getting Son in this week. I'm not sold. It's a great fixture. I think Leicester is probably the best fixture for an attacking team right now, but the issue with it is Son looks short of confidence. 1 assist all season, that was in Gameweek 1. He was brought off on 70 minutes against Sporting, and I think for all of Conte's praise of Son, defense of Son, keeps saying that Son's a great guy, he just needs time. The fact that when Spurs needed a goal, they took Son off, left Kane on, left Richarlison on, brought on Kulusevski, that to me tells me that Conte sees Son is having some issues. There's a lot of theories as to why he's doing badly. Some say it's because Perisic is in the team and Perisic has taken up that space where Son would normally be. Maybe that's the case. For me, it's just everything he does seems to be laboured. He needs a few touches on the ball. He's not as confident. He's just not finding himself. And I think at that price, you kind of want a guarantee of points. So for me, Son's just too expensive to carry in this current vein of form. Bowen and Maddison, second and third highest for predicted points. The issue with them, obviously leaving aside the likes of Salah, now the issue with Bowen and Maddison is there's just no form to go off, right? They just haven't done it this season. Bowen has nothing in the league, not a goal, not an assist. Maddison at least has the 2 goals from earlier in the season. I think it's game week 2 and 3. So I think with James Maddison, because Leicester rely on him so much, that is something to look at. Bowen, of course, has penalties now. He took one in the Europa League. Lanzini would be the other penalty taker, but he's not been playing, so I think you assume Bowen is on pens. For me, I think you can have one of these guys. I see a lot of drafts with both of them, and for me, I think you want to hedge your bets here. I look at Leicester's fixtures. So Spurs this week, no go for me. But next week, Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds. 3 of those 4 are decent. West Ham play Everton this week, which is not the best, but Jordan Pickford is out for Everton, so Begovic is playing. That helps. Then they have Wolves, not a great fixture, but okay. Fulham, okay. Southampton, then Liverpool. I don't think either of these fixture runs are as good as people are making them out to be. And if I had to pick one, I'd go with, I think, a Leicester mid. And I actually would suggest waiting 1 week, to be honest with you. I think if you don't need to do the transfer this week, you can keep some cash aside. And in Gameweek 9, you can consider going for Maddison or Bowen or Barnes. I think you give yourself an extra week to make that decision. And the reason for that is because you look at underlying data here. So we've got that on the screen now. Expected goals and expected assists. Maddison, Bowen and Barnes. So the 3 players from the teams we're looking at, all right at the bottom. You guys like Gordon ahead of them, right? Anthony Gordon, Saint Max, Son, Zaha, Martinelli. Now, Martinelli, you look at the data, is amazing, right? He is putting out premium numbers at a budget price. So even with Arsenal's blank at 12, I have no interest in selling Martinelli. Plays on the left wing for Arsenal. Spurs are bad down their left flank, right? Because they play Emerson Royale at the right back position. That's where the goal against Sporting came from. They also conceded a set piece. Martinelli takes set pieces for Arsenal. You see where I'm going with this. So I would keep Martinelli regardless of the blank. He's just too good for his price. Looking down the list, the reason why I'm putting this decision off 1 more week, look at Zaha's numbers. Amazing, but Zaha doesn't play this week. Of course, if you can get Zaha in and bench him, brilliant, because his numbers are excellent, close to Martinelli, but he has penalties, and penalties make such a huge difference, right? So you can bump that up. He's basically playing like a premium as well. Zaha's got good fixtures going forward. So for me, I think what I really like, honestly, maybe take a 1 week punt on one of these guys, maybe like a Kulusevski, if you think he starts against Leicester. Pivot to Zaha next week. That's something I would consider. Or get Zaha in now, bench him, play him next week. Glue guy, nail, talisman, what's not to like. Harvey Barnes is something I'm looking at. I think for that price, I would feel better than investing in Maddison at 8. But once again, I would honestly just wait 1 week with Leicester, because it's such a bad fixture this week. Brodge might get sacked over the break. Yeah, I'm just not sold on either him or Bowen. I think the data is just too poor to justify it right now. Forwards. Okay, so now we're getting into it. Forwards, it's really difficult to go against the 2 main guys, right? Haaland and Mitrovic, top 2 and 3 for predicted points. So let's address the third guy, because everybody's going to have Haaland and Mitrovic anyway. Let's talk about Kane. Do you go up with Kane, or do you go for a cheaper guy like Isak, Tony, Solanke, who are all about 6 to 7 predicted points below Kane over the next 5 fixtures? For me, I would go with the cheaper guys, because you saw Spurs against Sporting. They don't look great. Kane has managed 5 goals from 6 games so far, but I would say he has not been lucky, but he has not been impressive in the same way that Haaland has been. And you pay a lot of money for Kane, especially if you want to go back to Salah in Gameweek 12 when City blank and Liverpool play. You don't really want that money tied up. Spurs play United in 12, so not a great fixture. In fact, the next 5 fixtures for Spurs are fairly mixed. Leicester, great fixture. Arsenal, North London derby, that's okay. Brighton, alright. Everton, okay. But these are not screaming like great fixtures. Whereas you look at Tony, Brentford have Arsenal this week, but then Bournemouth next week, which is great. Newcastle, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford in the next 3. So for me, I would just go with the cheaper forward. I think they can match the output that Kane has. And even somebody like a Solanke, for instance, nailed 90 minutes, pens. I just don't think Kane provides enough to justify the price, even if the models favor him. And you can see that in the underlying stats, right? We got this on the screen now. Comes to expected goals, expected assists. Kane is performing just above where Tony is, and around the level of Jesus, and nowhere near Haaland. Haaland's just on a different planet. Small sample size, of course, for Isak, but it looks like a good start, and I think just shows that there's no reason to spend 11 million on Kane. I just can't sell myself on that. So it looks attractive when you have, front line of Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic, damn, you're going to get goals. But it's too much. For me, I think money is better spread across midfield and defense, and you've got enough 7 million forwards with potential to haul. Tony, Isaac, and even, Mitrovic, no questions asked. And while Callum Mercer is still out, I expect Isaac to take pens for Newcastle. So, for me, all in all, I just don't see the upside going for Kane. Okay, so this is the team. This is the controversial part, right? Defense, nothing much to see here, right? Pope, Trippier, Cancelo, Perisic. Yeah, Perisic. I stick by Perisic. And on the bench, Reece James and Neco Williams. Neco Williams, I think, is perfectly fine as a bench guy. In Gameweek 12, which is when we'll all need the bench because City and Arsenal blank, he plays Brighton away. Not great, but it's okay. I mean, he's got attacking potential, so even if he blanks, might get an assist, like he did last week, 4 points. I think you take that, 4.1 million. No need to reinvent the wheel here. Yes, they've signed another right back in Serge Aurier, but Neco Williams is the guy they paid the money for, big bucks. He's played 90 minutes every week so far, so I think safe. Midfield. De Bruyne, Martinelli, Kulusevski, Bailey, and Andreas on the bench. Okay, so here's the controversial part, right? De Bruyne, fine. I don't think anybody's disputing De Bruyne as a pick. Great stats, great fixtures, and everybody owns Haaland, so this is the only way you get a differential in the City attack. Martinelli, I think no arguments. So Kulusevski and Bailey, controversial, right? Bailey's next 3 fixtures. Let's look back at it. Villa play Southampton, Leeds, and Forest in the next 3. Bailey is playing up top now. That's why he played against Man City. Back-to-back 90 minutes. He's always a risk because Gerrard is a fickle, inexperienced manager who is going to change things the moment they go wrong. But if Bailey starts even 2 of these 3, Saints and Forest, that's brilliant. I mean, he's playing up top for Villa. 4.7, I think, perfectly fine. And he's not, as you can see in this lineup, he's not required to start each week. So he's just a bench guy who I'm starting this week. I think it's fine. Kulusevski, controversial, yes, I know. Not nailed, but I'm banking on him to start since he hasn't started in the last 3 games. He's looked good every time he's come on. And I think the fact they lost to Sporting will push Conte to doing what everybody wants him to do, which is start Kulusevski. I mean, every Spurs fan wants this. So it's a gamble, but if he starts Leicester at home, and if you've been watching Leicester games, you'll notice on the right flank, they're kind of weak. That's where James got the assist against, I think it was Gameweek 5 or Gameweek 4. He got an assist for Sterling from that right flank. And if you watch the game last week against Brighton, Solly March had some amazing chances down that flank. He had a lot of joy. And I think that's something that can be exploited with somebody like Kulusevski. Really direct, pacey, runs at them. I think him running in that space between Evans and Justin, he'll cause problems. If he starts, big if, but I like it as a 1-week punt. And I think there's a lot of upside here. A lot of people just won't go for him. They're too scared. And I think it's worth a shot. I don't think he would do so much worse than Maddison this week or Bowen this week. So I think it's a fair risk to take. Up top, Mitrovic, Haaland, Isak. Not much to discuss here, right? Haaland and Mitrovic, easy. Haaland captain, as usual. Isak against Bournemouth? Hell yeah. I mean, Newcastle striker playing at home, St. James Park, against the worst defense in the league. 18 goals conceded already. Isak looked amazing against Liverpool. Had that disallowed goal, had the actual goal that he scored. And then Palace, a bit unlucky. Good XG, but just didn't convert. I think 2 weeks of training with the team, because you got to remember he was brought in, thrown straight in at the deep end. No time to adjust because of Wilson's injury. He's had 2 weeks off, trained with the team, known them better, and I think he's going to be really good. At home, Newcastle, always formidable. St. James Park, I think they've only lost twice there since Howe arrived. So for me, Isak easily in. And that's the team. So we will see you again after the international break for Game Week 9. Sam will be back, but in the meantime, good luck. If you like the video, share, subscribe, and comment down below with your team this week. I'd ask you for your captain, but we're all on Captain Haaland anyway, right?
Oh,